That's right. It's Fab Female Founder Friday on the Startup Life Live Show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Andy Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I got a pretty good idea of what you're going through and navigating every single day, the ups, the downs, trying to find equilibrium and balance, sustainability and profitability. And I am in awe and wonder of you for having the courage to pursue your dreams and bring in all those problem solving skills that you have to create the outcome and delight your customers and build a team. Siri, let me just get out the clappers. You are all so wonderful for being founders. Wherever you are, if you are watching this video, please give this video a like so it can get out and reach even more founders or wannabe founders in the world. And if you're tuning in from YouTube and you haven't done so already, please click on the subscribe button there. And if you'd like a nice deep dive into each of the guests, please join the Startup Life Live meetup group. This way you get an alert whenever I post a new show and a few hours before I go live with all the details of our wonderful guests, bringing all their delicious founder journey stories and insights to your world. And I'm always going to do this little quick shout out right here for Scroobius. If you're raising capital, please go visit Scroobius.com, SCROOBIOUS.com. This is a human first fundraising experience. They make it so easy. They make sure you have the best pitch deck that you could possibly have so you can create the best relationships with aligned investors, ideal for your startup. Use code Andy15 to get a 15% discount on the services. And it also has that great founder support that is so important. I want to share a little Andy-licious advice with you before I introduce our guest. And it's this quote I have here that I just think is so important as you're walking, moving, swimming through your day. I want you to remember every time you thought you couldn't keep moving forward, you did. So just take a deep breath, take a moment to just get out of your own clapper and cheer yourself on, to appreciate your strength, your resilience, your tenacity, and your persistence, and to celebrate how far you have come with your journey. I mean, stop right now because there's so many things that have to be learned and grow, and you're always feeling inadequate or like, oh my gosh, how am I going to figure that out? Well, you felt that way a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. You have built these incredible founder muscles. So I'm so proud of all of you. Let me share with you a little bit of the background of our guest today before I introduce her. And it's the amazing Rachael Kim. She's the co-founder and CEO of My Comma, an organic period care subscription platform amplifying women and BIPOC-led brands to menstruators while powering new routines. And this work gave rise to the Femtech Salon series, taking place in LA, Atlanta, Miami, and other high-growth cities to support and amplify diverse femtech founders by creating more connected ecosystems in their respective local cities. As an ex-corporate entrepreneur turned social impact entrepreneur, Rachael uses her superpowers for gender equity, particularly period equity. I had never heard that before, but I love that, while supporting overlooked businesses. Rachael, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you here. Yay!
Thank you. I love your energy on a Friday morning. It's amazing.
Where are you sitting right now? Where are you hailing from?
I'm hailing from LA. So I sit in Larchmont, which is just south of Hollywood. It's this lovely little village that has great coffee shops, and I'm still within my first year here in LA, so it's been an adjustment.
Where had you come from?
I was in Seattle during COVID because my parents were high risk, so I stuck around.
Nice. Good.
But before then, we'll probably talk about my background more. I lived in London. I backpacked for a year after quitting corporate life to heal myself, and that started my real journey around wellness and health, and the wide range from mental to physical.
Yeah, no, I love that. Putting a comma in one's life and taking a pause is so important because it can go by in like a boom. And I want to say hi to the wonderful community manager here at Startup Life Live Show. Hey, Ruth. So excited for the show. Can't wait. And it's Fab Female Founder Friday. Yay. And Ruth hails from Kenya, so she's coming in from a long way. And the wonderful Mia Voss. And everybody knows what happens when Mia Voss, tuning in from Denver, shows by. We have to do the quickest shout out for her amazing podcast, Shit We Don't Talk About, which is what we're talking about today, right? So
It is.
go on to your favorite podcast platform and check out Mia Shit We Don't Talk About. And yes, I know. Welcome, Rachel. We're so happy for this conversation. And I'm on the other side. Okay. So women, we love to talk about all these things when we get together, but it's not often that we can talk about our cycles, our periods, or our menopause or our perimenopause. But it feels just like yesterday that I was, talking about this and thinking about this. And so, I'm always curious out of all the businesses, especially given your background in analysis, et cetera. I mean, you've got a great data driven brain. How is it that you landed with my comma, with talking about, going into better menstrual health, amplifying women and BIPOC brands? Had you been exposed to entrepreneurship growing up? Share with us, Rachel.
Um, so I would say my father worked. My father actually a really good example where he had a corporate job working for the Navy, but he had a side business in logistics, and it was his own. And I not that I was exposed much to it. I just knew that it existed, and
Yeah.
and from the get go, my parents are very much Asian tiger parents, where you need to prove yourself. You know if there's something that's wrong, not right. But I learned to be very self sufficient very early on in terms of if I wanted to have anything new, I needed to make money myself. So I started with violin lessons actually at the age of 9. I was already concert master in elementary school, and my orchestra teacher had already recommended me to teach other students. And so that's where it kicked off my, I think, entrepreneurial career.
Well, and were you teaching like the second graders? There you were, the
No,
fourth grade or fifth?
I was teaching, 4th through 6th graders at that time. Yeah. My sisters had a musical background in terms of we all started on piano. I started on piano around 4 or 5, and
Mhm.
then moved on to violin. But that actually was probably my first businesses, so to speak, that sustained me through junior high and high school. But yeah, and what I learned from that experience, and I continue to learn as I went into corporate life and Accenture, is if you have a niche skill set there and there's a demand for it, then you can actually leverage it in a way where it's beneficial for yourself as well as for everybody else.
I love that advice. And founders, you've heard that 100 times, if not more. Niche down. I mean, there's so many things you can offer, so many things you can do. Niche down. And right there, you learned that at the age of 9, and it sustained you for years, and you saw what it was like to provide a service and get paid for it. So that planted some great seeds for life as an entrepreneur. And then you went off and you went to school and you did grad school, yes?
No, so I went to Northwestern and London School
Mhm.
of Economics as a
Yeah,
combined thing for my undergrad.
got
I
it.
did political science and economics double major. I also had research on the side and worked at a cafe. So, one, I think I've always known to be busy.
Yeah,
That's something that my parents always instilled in me. But through getting a research grant, again, that's entrepreneurial in the sense of how do you put forward your idea and pitch it to win some kind of fundraising,
yeah.
which was then published with a doctor who was sadly unhappy the fact that I was not pre-med, had no intention of doing so. I just love understanding human biology, and biology was
Right.
one of my favorite subjects. And I think that's really where a lot of this, going into menstruation aspect, understanding humans on not just a physical level, but emotional and mental level.
Yeah.
That's where it all stems from is just my interest in wanting to understand people and living things. And
And how did that show up, Rachel, after you graduated from college? Like, where were your
absolutely.
interests? Because
Yeah. So, political science and economics, it's like one is being able to communicate, understand, compare, right?
yeah.
Different, whether geographies or countries or social structures. And then economics is a different way, a different social structure, but it's much more driven by numbers and theory. And so I always had that going in. And I also understand I was coming out in 2008 where it was a subprime mortgage crisis.
Oh,
So I was I was very smart because I worked on the Hill the summer before. So I knew that was coming down the pipeline to get a consulting. I started as an analyst with Accenture. But I started in subprime mortgage crisis time, so wartime, right? And funny
yeah.
that we talk about this because I really believe I'm more of a wartime CEO than I am a peacetime, and probably we'll talk about this later. But that's what we're going into, and so my experience is starting a corporate life, subprime mortgage crisis time, and seeing sort of how everybody acted and what to expect on timelines. I mean, it it's incorporated in the advice I provide to a lot of my femtechs through the Femtech Salon. And so that was just then compounded by the fact that I worked in healthcare and pharma. I had Fortune 100, Fortune 500, worked in Germany, Sweden, through Accenture based out of London. And then from there, it was actually my own breaking down of my own mental, physical, emotional health.
Wow. Well,
That
how did things start showing up? Because, if you were teaching violin lessons at 9 and you came from a very strong work ethic, and we tend to, get caught up into what we're indoctrinated to do and to be. What were the signals that you started to get, and how did you become okay with that? It's like, wow, I don't need to have that level of grind and hustle.
it took a period of 3 years before I left Accenture.
Mhm.
I didn't listen to my gut, and I'm normally good about that, but it was one of the things where if I think back, um, I should have trusted myself more. I was 27, 28 at the
Yeah.
time. That things just aren't what they used to be when you're working for a big company, and perhaps I wasn't getting the leadership or advisory versus what I was already putting in, because
Right.
I also in Accenture developed a whole business line for them that made them multi-millions. So that also is a transition from, and that's where the entrepreneur, how
Yes.
do you sell within a big corporation where my skill set, I was on demand as the GDPR expert and data protection expert for Accenture globally.
Yep.
I was the GDPR strategist for Accenture.
Wow.
Yeah. And I trained people and I also assessed, I interviewed MDs who would be coming in for the job to help sell, right? But it went from, it was really 7 years in the making of building this business line, it took a good 5 years for Accenture. They saw that I could sell my own, have relationships with clients, and they saw the value. But to really fully invest in and want it, it goes from like 0 to 100 like this.
Yeah.
And it took a toll. I had one
Even
year.
with all the resources, because, large corporations
Well,
have
well, large
departments.
corporations have resources, but that does not mean they allocate resources to you. That's
Uh-huh.
that's a big thing. And I would say this is where, as long as you have like leadership oversight to support that, that's great. I had a weird period where one my lead, who I really had a great relationship with, had left, and so I was for a couple of years was left in this vacuum
Oh,
whilst I was building this business. And so also the thing is, when you're inside a company that is very numbers driven, it also drives very nasty behaviors because let's just face it, it's tech. Like,
Yeah.
yes, Accenture is consulting, it's also a tech company. And
Yeah.
so let's just say a lot of that culture was also there.
That's
And
right.
just over time, which also resulted in my own real breakdown of physically. I
Yeah.
had doctors telling me I needed to change my life. Um,
I'm so happy you listened to them.
yeah. Yeah, and to really rip out, what my parents, God forbid, they're just like, you live in London, you're a senior manager going for MD, like you're young, why are you doing this?
Yeah. What's the
And
problem with that? Seems like a typical day.
but my father, I think in this way, my parents weren't really that hardline, but it took me basically breaking down
Yeah.
for them to recognize the fact of like how unhealthy it was for me.
Right.
And that's just what I would say is just like the culture wasn't for me anymore. If
Well,
that
and
makes
Rachel, you brought up a really good point right there. For me, folks, especially with social media, I mean, it is just comparison everywhere you turn around. And this is why you have to work even harder at understanding what works for me. And we talk about this a lot in the Startup Life Live show on what success looks like, because folks, you could just be feeding your family and maybe, changing the generational wealth in your family. That's wonderful. It doesn't always have to be about world domination, and you can still feel valid and worthy as a founder. And so having this physical breakdown, I'm thinking, gave you more empathy for humanity and the fragility of humanity, and that we're not all made with that. I mean, we see people who just aren't happy unless they're really tapped out into a level that their body and mind can easily deliver. And it doesn't make them better. It just makes them able to do that. It's like, having different tools that can do different things, right? You're not going to say, oh, that screwdriver only unscrews certain things versus a huge machine. This is what we have to remember as humans. And so perhaps what your physical breakdown, was it more on the feminine side or human side? Did it give you a better, deeper
it
understanding?
gave me insight to because no one goes through their corporate life thinking that they would be that person.
Right.
And so starts the breaking down of ego and pride,
Mhm.
because I definitely had some then. I have significantly less now, but startup life beats it out of you, especially when you're used to high flying as a corporate expert, being flown around to banks and internationally, and all the things, right? All the things
Right.
that signified success for my parents as well as for myself at that point in time. But I always wanted more, and I've always had a very creative part to me that was that I would do projects outside of consulting work to
Right.
get to, because that musical background, that artistic background, the fact that I just love doing a lot of different things, and my brain needs different stimuli to really thrive,
And to be fully expressed.
to be fully expressed. And as I was backpacking around, period, travel and tourism channels are the worst. It's literally period deserts, like period product deserts. And for me, it's just like, okay, why? And then it made me think about, I things I couldn't say when I was at work because I didn't want to. As soon as I talk about something personal, I would be sexualized
That's
or
right.
lead a chance to be sexualized because um you know, I was very conscious of how I was perceived. I dressed a certain way to make sure people,
Perceived, you mean judged.
yeah, the fact that I would wear clothes to make sure that it focuses on my face, not anything, no
Right.
one else. But
Right.
it doesn't, unfortunately, and now we can really talk about it. It does not make me an exception to certain attention or judgments, or
That's right.
a lot of the time, if the clients first met me and pure European white men, they're like, "Oh, are you the secretary?" Like, no, I'm the expert that you're paying
When will we
several
ever
$1,000s
get
a
past
day
this?
for. And then I would have to prove myself. And at the end, the client would, love it, right? Like majority of clients, I would say there are a couple clients, and you'll find this. It just doesn't work just from a personality, core value mindset, and that's fine.
Right. But
But
you're
yeah,
talking about something that we're faced with a lot of times in the entrepreneurship mythology world, which is fake it till you make it. So that just enhances and supports masking. And masking never works. I mean, sometimes, in certain situations, sure, you got to put a brave face on. But for the most part, the stress that comes is what you did at Accenture of masking, of thinking, making sure you look like one of everybody, that you met all these expectations. And when people were judging you, you fell high, not short. And so that takes a toll.
it
And
does. It's this emotional tightrope where, on top of executing and delivering high quality that I was known for, and
yeah,
building my reputation year by year, step by step, client by client,
yeah,
asset by asset. I was not the type of consultant where I could just tell someone to do something. Even as a senior manager, I created things from nothing. I was a creator. And so, with that, people try to take their, landmark on the money that you make with clients, all the things, like at all levels. So, it was a good training ground for me to see, because that's what it is. So when I think about my path to here, everything makes sense to me of why I'm here.
right.
And so it also reminded me, as I was traveling around, of all the business meetings, the C-suite exec meetings, where I was typically the only woman, particularly women, young, Asian, and American, right? So like the holy trifecta of things
Yep.
in the room. And if I was on my period, it's not like I could say, "Excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom because I'm going to bleed, like overbleed my tampon." Right. And so it just got me going. I came back to the US. I met up with a friend who I'd known since kindergarten. And we were just, I needed a project. And we just said, okay, let's just do one sprint of this and see. And so the initial idea was to create a travel pack of period care products for people, where you could get them on planes, buses, like last mile access points, hotels. Because if you go to five-star hotels, you call the reception. Typically, it's male, and they're very uncomfortable talking about a tampon or pad or any of that, which makes you feel uncomfortable.
And and
Right?
and and this is where the conversation has to start, which is, look, the period is the reason why we have the unique opportunity and capability of birthing babies here.
Well, so that's just it. Is in my last Atlanta Femtech Salon, which was in December, I asked the audience, like, who has a mother who was actually given birth. Everybody had to raise their hand, including the 20 men in the room. And I'm really proud that we had 20 men in the room out of 100 people. But humanity comes from the fact of our ability in our cycle, and the fact that it's been relegated to this back corner or the recess of our minds, and not celebrated, or a natural fabric of how we live as people.
Right.
Um,
Oh, you
so
need a tissue to blow your nose? Oh, you need a tampon, because you're out of tampon. I mean, what?
yeah, and so that really got me started. So I started on Taboo, unraveling things. At that point in time, then COVID hit. So I knew travel and tourism was going to be down. It brought me back to my subprime mortgage crisis days, where I was like, this is going to take 2+ years to get travel back online, minimum, even after all of this, even though people are saying, oh, just another month. And like, no, it's not. So then I had to pivot into one of the other areas. I was like, okay, data, what about, there's starting to be more products on the market now. People want to know more and sort of personalize. And I knew about personalization and the AI way before, I think, a lot of mainstream, because that Accenture did a lot of that work across a lot of clients.
Right.
A
And
lot of the big
also,
corporates
you
have this already.
and you knew that people were caring about what they put in their bodies. And
Anything
then
in
the
or
result of when they took it out,
yeah.
is it going to be eco-friendly.
Yeah, but also we've been microdosed. Our mothers were microdosed dosed with dioxin in tampons, right? Because the FDA didn't regulate them. And there's this natural assumption, or there's a fallacy, that the FDA heavily regulates these products. They don't. They only regulate new products which have never been on the market before, with very new materials that require clinical studies. If it's something that's been pre-existing and it's very similar, you can go through there's an accelerated track where, as long as you invest 500,000 to 1 million in your quality management system and stuff, you can then launch your brand
Yeah.
if you choose to run it by the FDA.
Yeah, you're just renaming it and you're getting your spin and your brand to it, but basically it's a product that has been already approved for decades.
Yeah, and this is another mind-blowing part, where tampons are class 2 medical devices.
What does
Pads
that
are
mean?
class 1. They actually are, because of the amount of contact within the body and where it's positioned, it has to be regulated.
What
But
does class 2 mean? I don't know what I
so
didn't even
class 1 is basically, so pads is one where it just sits in contact. There's no internal entry. The effects of it is relatively low. So think of it as innocuous. There's definitely more formalized scientific version of that for FDA, but I'm just trying to put in layman's terms. Class 2, it's like, that, anything that starts going inside the body, sitting within the body for periods of time, that can actually have adverse effects of it, i.e., TSS, toxic syndrome. These are things that actually have to be more carefully regulated. But again, because of this accelerated track, where if you already have a tampon that's based upon the design that was pre-existing, there's very little oversight, right?
Wow.
There's only one where I'm excited about is Wild. They're based out of Berlin. They're making tampons out of seaweed. So this is completely new material, of which they will have to do clinical studies if they want to come to the US. So that's an example of, if someone has an organic cotton tampon versus building completely new materials, ocean powered period care, like that's the difference.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So there you were, COVID, because it's always great when an idea comes to a founder, right?
Right before COVID, though. So 6 months before COVID, I was like, oh, I came back to Seattle. My parents have all my things from London. Didn't know what I was going to do. I was still healing, though. I was maybe 80% of who I was. And to be quite frank, like the lowest of the low, I could barely remember my own name. I had mind fog.
Yeah.
The significant amount of sustained stress for so many years actually drastically reduced my gray matter. Your gray matter is where your memory is.
Yeah.
Your gray matter is, and the only way they can do, really increase that or get that back is actually through meditation and other relaxing things.
And also, how about your heart? Because with women under that consistent daily high levels of stress, it really takes a toll on the heart.
Okay. So just being really honest of where I was, had severe anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And
Course.
I'm saying this as an Asian. I'm saying this, and as a professional. I'm saying this for many reasons, because the fact that it can happen to anyone, and no one thought from work that I had it. And it's just like, it presents very differently for people. I could, operate and be highly effective at work, but as soon as I got home, that's a different story, in terms of like, I'm just so exhausted, so depressed, so tired, etc., etc. And so for me, it took me a year traveling around the world. I traveled across 4 countries. That was, my gift to myself after 10 years of working so hard in corporate life. But I was still recovering when I started Untaboo, right? And I feel like I knew the general direction of where I wanted to go, but I hadn't defined either the edges of how I was going to do it or the vehicle of how I was going to do it.
But you knew you wanted to address menstrual health.
Because the fact that of the impact on my life and my corporate life and professional life, and then also as I was trying to enjoy my life and trying to recover. And it really got me thinking, and I think a lot, by the way. just the subversive impacts on everything that we were never taught. And there's only research now that's demonstrating this. I mean, the fact that Elsevier put out the first full female skeleton for medical studies, and it's virtual. That's the first of its kind. I mean, that's
And it's the first real accurate one, right?
the most accurate version.
Okay, and folks, this wasn't like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This was a
last
minute ago.
year. This was literally last year, and
Yeah.
Elsevier put it out. And then so like this is where we are in terms of cisgendered females versus cisgender males. So the what you were assigned at birth, your gender, but just to be frank, right? I was 30 in my 30s, figuring out the fact that everything that we like, whether it's school, physical education, nutrition, medication, studies, we're all based upon white men. How we've been delivering healthcare, and no wonder, especially in communities that are underserved and not Caucasian,
Right.
that it doesn't work. And again, COVID has been great about pulling out the data around that and making that.
But Rachel, the first time I heard that was in 1986. Okay. They were testing estrogen on men to see how it would affect women. So this has been going on for decades, and we're still shocked. Here we are again. And you and I had mentioned when we were doing our tech and show check and today you and I have less rights with our bodies.
I have less rights.
We
I have
did.
less legal rights over my body as a 36, almost turning 37-year-old than I did in my 20s.
I know.
Like I left and more empowered as a 24-year-old to Europe, and I lived and where in Europe I would say I had more freedom, and but coming back here, I mean the contrast was very stark.
Yeah.
And then
And
going
so,
into COVID was
well, and this is why my comment is so important as well, because you're starting the conversation. You're doing these wonderful salons. Check this out, that recently my comment had in Atlanta, a Femtech Salon. You're getting the people together, the women together, the allies together to help people understand. We're going to start talking about this in a more meaningful way, in an honoring way, and transparent. And hello, we need to just say it all the time until it gets diluted enough so people aren't like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, I'm buying tampons and the person checking me out is a guy. Nobody feels that way about the cigarettes they're buying.
No. And that's changing as well, because you see TikToks with boyfriends, husbands, partners talking about, or like fathers talking about how it impacts those around them. And I think that's great. I mean, that's why, over time I met my co-founder. We collaborated on some boxes because I did more the data and the research of products, and she had her period box, Algelin Sperber. Shout out to you, amazing co-founder. And after working together and knowing each other for several years, we merged to MyComma. And MyComma isn't just about periods. Actually, we do provide boxes for people who don't have periods. But MyComma really stands for taking time for yourself, the breath for yourself. It's acknowledging all aspects of yourself that, for me, I denied a lot of parts of myself for a good part of my life because of the expectations and the kind of lifestyle I led. It also means all life stages, right, of an individual, and the fact that it takes community to move us forward. So MyComma was actually provided to us by a customer at our business shower. This was the name that we pulled, and it just represented all our values that we continue to push and evolve through with the Femtech Salon, because it's not just only allies. I invite people who are curious. Right. Femtech is now a $1 trillion industry.
And let's define what femtech means.
So honestly, femtech, and how I see it, is really any technology that focuses on underserved or conditions that are that impact women and non-binary individuals more. So it can be and so it's not just menstruation and reproductive care. It's not just fertility. We're talking about heart, oncology is definitely one, cancer, breast
Yeah.
cancer, heart attacks is actually a really good area.
Hmm.
Skin, because you have to understand the framing of healthcare has been from this one point of view, and so everything around that for cisgendered females and non-binary individuals have are just it's not a match, right? It's not
Yeah.
a system that was made for us. Our healthcare system wasn't made for us, and so that's where you see a lot of people going out to research products and using CPG, right, consumer product goods, to create their own healthcare at home, because of the fact that what they're currently getting in their own professional healthcare space is just not enough.
Okay, two things I want to touch on. First of all, you had a business shower.
Shout out to Shine Registry. Yeah. So they put on with Vibe Co-works, and Vibe is out of the Poulsbo region. So it's just right outside of Seattle. My
Yeah.
co-founder co-works out of there. And so both of them put on a business shower, and it just meant so much to see, especially as we were doing this venture, of like who is really in our community. We started as a subscription box, but with our vision of really accelerating gender equity and healthcare for our people on our planet, but also the fact that um, we are EQ led, EQ and data
Yeah.
led. That's
Yeah.
that's how my co-founder and I operate. Um, has led us to evolve this event series, which was an idea 6 months ago, into, we've had 3 events across LA and Atlanta. We have more planned across Miami, Denver, Chicago, Austin this year, to really create what I call ecosystems, right? So
Absolutely.
and and this is acknowledging the fact that even in the startup space, where healthcare, CPG, wellness is like one of the hardest areas to get invested in, first of all, then majority of the founders are either people of color, women, non-binary.
Mhm.
That percentage of investment gets significantly smaller.
Yeah.
And so the question is why? Why is that? It's because the system wasn't made for us.
And that was my next point. The healthcare system was not made for women. Folks, you have to understand, when you are sick and you go to the hospital, especially if you're a person of color, a woman of color, you have to scream really loud. You have to create a ruckus, whether you're comfortable doing that or not, because you will not be heard. You will not be taken seriously. Just ask anybody who's had endometriosis and been told, oh, you're not in that much pain. Really? How do you know?
Well, it's
It,
equivalent of a heart attack now, right?
what? Say that again?
Uh, like endometriosis, for the pain people feel, is an equivalent to a heart attack.
Yeah, it's huge, and so painful, and they get nothing. I can't. And again, 40 years later, I can't believe we're still having this conversation with mainstream doctors. And here's the wonderful co-founder herself. Please say hello. How are we say? Is it Aljolin?
Yeah, Algolin. Yeah.
Aljolin. Oh my gosh, she's saying check out Shine Registry.
Emily.
Shineregistry.com for business shower registry ideas. Come on, is that not a brilliant idea? I love that. Something fierce. I'm going to put that in link in the show notes, everybody, because when you launch a business, you do need to celebrate. There's absolutely no guarantee you're going to have a successful outcome. Just like, when you get pregnant, there's no guarantee you're going to have a successful outcome with a baby. It's just so important to celebrate that huge milestone. And what I love that you and Aljalin have done is you have created a platform that not only delivers these amazing products, I'm just going to pop them back up again, personalized quarterly period care box, be you, do you, for you, with these incredible women and BIPOC led brands. Hello, as it should be. It shouldn't be, buying anything from the man who's made these products. And you're also elevating the conversation. So everybody can just say, yeah, my periods, I've got clots that could take over Chicago. And everybody can go, oh my gosh, well, this is the pad you need for those times, especially as your period ends, everybody. It becomes just one big mess. The last hurrah.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's been great, and we do carry male CEO products, but it's normally one they have to have a diverse team, and they need to be known as allies. So again, we're all about being inclusive, even in our femtech salons. It's not only just for women; it's for anyone who wants to understand why this femtech as a word is buzzing, why it's worth $1 trillion now as the valuation, and also understand why it's been so difficult for founders to really realize that market value and potential. That if you aren't, the always tampons, the big corporates of the world, and the few who have been able to really accelerate the space in the last 5 years. And so now we're coming into a world of choice for individuals around your personalization of just your self-care, personal care. Again, it's not just for people who have periods. But those femtech salons are really a safe way for one to amplify the good work of all the founders, so that people
Right.
are actually recognized within their local area. So it all stemmed from the fact that when it came to LA, yes, it's a great ground for CPG, wellness, femtech brands, but people didn't maybe knew 4 or 5 other femtech founders, right? No one
Right.
had a holistic view of that, and that's where that work started. Of like, okay, if people don't have a view of that, how are we creating the right system, the right foundation for them to thrive instead of
Right.
survive in this climate, especially with the market headwinds as they are. And
But Rachel, you and Ashlyn also have to pitch to investors with this not only a bias because you're a woman, you're an Asian woman, but also you're talking about something everybody's really uncomfortable talking about. It's like, bringing up anything about a woman's body, like the clitoris and things like that. It's like, oh no, you can't be open. Talking about the period, and you're raising capital, and you're often with men like, well, what's the big deal? I mean, I see my wife or my daughters, they grab this stuff, or maybe they don't even have daughters, or maybe everybody in their home is like, shh, don't talk about it to daddy,
and it's interesting, yeah, because so just for example, the men who come to our event, they get a goodie bag. Now the question is, who are they going to give the goodie bag to? Is it their girlfriend? Is it their mother? Is it their sister? Is it their cousin? Is it their niece? They typically give it to someone in their family, and it starts that one conversation that they normally never have.
That's right.
And that's the magic of what we do, in terms of, it's not about not only promoting these femtech founders and gathering everybody around the idea of accelerating the space for not only health equity, gender equity, and overall. It's really starting out of intimate and intentional conversational space where we're all learning. I do not purport myself to be an expert. I'm putting my hands up.
You're creating the safe space to
I'm creating
have the conversations and to learn yourself.
and to learn. And I also state that, with any femtech salons, like, we're all evolving, we're all creating language right now
Right.
for this space. So do I get it wrong? Yes, I do get it wrong. Do I self-correct myself? Yes, I try to do that. Do I learn from others and how they speak about it, how they're thinking about it?
We already know that about you, Rachel. Your brain is always thinking, and you're taking all that information and you're assimilating it and you're categorizing it.
Yes, on some level. But
We love that about you. I celebrate that.
thank you. But what I'm trying to do is create a space without the normal boundaries of him versus her, or gender identity. You know what I mean? All the things that have created the current situation. And so, I invite anyone who is curious to come to our femtech salons.
Yep. Here, folks. Elgerlyn in the comment section, and of course, I'll have this in the show notes. She says, stay tuned for the Femtech Salon website going live soon. For now, follow us here, Instagram.com/my life. And it's very, very exciting what you're doing there. And I want to see too, dissolving the comment, oh, she's on her period, don't talk to her now, she's going to be fragile, mean, whatever. I
Oh,
can bitch slap you any day of the week, any time of the year. It has nothing to do with the fact that, I've got my period. But at the same time, you can certainly honor me that, I have my period right now, light a candle. What can I do for you? There's got to be, and especially for women, we need to celebrate it instead of go, oh my God. And listen, I went into menopause early at the age of 48. So thank you, God.
which comes up with its own new situation and problems. But I'm on my period right now, so
Hey, here she is, everybody.
I'm showed up. And two, I see the way that we want to talk about our bodies is one, establishing and building a relationship with your body. And it's not just on
Right.
your period, it's just acknowledging your body. We have been taught to ignore it and just go by what is expected. Again, our 8th grade class failed us because of the fact that we were separated. We never knew about each, what the whole situation is going on in terms of just being human. And physical education, the way things are taught, are not for our bodies and how they mature. I mean, there's just so many things now that we know now from emerging research, and we're going to only know more going forward. But really, the fact that you have superpowers and different focuses throughout your cycle, like sometimes it's good for your body to rest. Other times it's really great for you to be social, to do really creative projects. I mean, these are things where we have so much potential, untapped potential that has been masked by what we've been conditioned to accept socially. And we're just unraveling that in a space where it's not ripping off the band-aid and say, here it is. No, it's really the gentle unraveling and acknowledgement and the exploration of that. And I just really feel, as an industry, we are in exploration mode.
Right. And what I love is that you're bringing the genders together so that we can be supportive. So, because, there's that, folks, if you haven't seen it, there's a TikTok with a woman, and it went viral, where she mimics a game show host asking men on the street several questions about women's periods. And while, we're all howling and then rolling our eyes because they are so clueless with these questions, especially around sex and periods and everything. And babe, oh my gosh. But at the same time, what I love about what you're doing with my comma and the Femtech Salon is you're not here to bash or shame. You're here to embrace and love, because women who are raising sons, that's how you'd want your sons to be treated as well. And I think that's so important that we sort of leave the um, infantilizing, I can never say that word correctly, of men, right? And the shaming, and just, help them step up as men in our lives, show up as adult men, and really understand this part of our body.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we've been wrapped up in shame socially for so long. I don't, just pushing it the other way does not help anyone, because let's just also face it, the world was made for men. And I love the book, The Invisible Woman.
Yes.
Right? It shows via data in different situations of how consistently we are the other.
Yeah.
And I'm all I'm going to say is every person has, their strengths and has their weaknesses, and I just, I'm still exploring myself. My ability to talk about my period publicly on a podcast right now is very different than where I was probably 3 or 4 years ago, of which maybe I would whisper it to my coworker or my girlfriend, if I needed a tampon, if I'm super desperate in a bathroom where there's
Why
no
did I wear my white pants today? I didn't know I was getting my period today.
But here I am, saying when I'm on my period, and being able to talk about this, it really is like, it is the fact that we need more love and acknowledgement in this space.
Yes.
But also structured with data. I'm not just saying should just be making normative statements. No, I truly believe in science, and More dollars and investments need to be directed that way.
Right.
In terms of investors for us, we have never taken investment. We've been bootstrapping through this entire time. The way that we do our Femtech salons is sponsorships, and that's how we get investment. But yes, pitching normally, I would say it's been more about the differences in city cultures that
Yeah.
have been an interesting observation. LA is very much open free.
Yeah.
Open free, but men. We have normally on our events like 10% are men.
Mhm.
Atlanta very conservative. It's growing, it's budding. There's a lot of potential there. Really amazing people and community, but 20% of men showed up, and they're not comfortable with the YouTube, but they were there. Right. And so it's just very different and interesting on seeing.
Well, it's because your intention is that men are included because they need to, help women in their life have less shame,
But also, it's not just a charity case. Yes, social impact is great,
Yes.
but this is not a charity case. When there's $1 trillion behind this, let's just be realistic as business people. There's money to be made. There's money
right.
to be made in the right way. And that's really what I want to emphasize and create as we build these ecosystems, not into a whole ecosphere across the US, is the fact that we are restructuring or evolving how Silicon Valley and startup land has traditionally been supporting these founders into a different solid foundation where they can thrive. And that really is my mission, because my next goal beyond that is starting to invest in them, right? Being able
That's right.
to become a VC or accelerator or just be an angel to do so. We are already in 6 months, we're already talking venture partnerships with VCs. And is
Excellent.
that something that I imagined 6 months ago? No. Is that something
No, but you become an expert in this niche, and it comes full circle here in this category. All of a sudden, your insights and understanding of the market and the ability of a femtech company to progress to becoming a profitable and sustainable and a purchasable, exitable company is really valuable. And I love that. And I just want to also put that Algerlin has here, tap into your period superpowers here at mycomma.life slash blogs slash learn tap in. And I'll have this link in the show notes. But can I play, because I think this is Algerlin on Instagram.
Yes,
Can I play that?
She is
Oh my gosh. Okay, everybody, I'm going to be bringing up on the screen. Just takes me a little second or two here to make sure I'm grabbing the right tab. On Instagram, I'm going to play this and hopefully it'll show up properly. Okay. Oh, it's not. Hold on. Okay, we're going to start.
You are unstoppable. If you're ovulating, you are so cuterous. If you're luteal, you are perfect just as you are. How do you hype yourself up? Let us know in the comments. Today is National Positive Thinking Day, and we've got some words of affirmation for you based on the phase you might be in. If you're menstrual, you are bloody brilliant and you are safe. If you're follicular, you are unstoppable. If you're ovulating, you are so cuterous. If you're luteal, you are perfect just as you are. How do you hype yourself up?
So I love that something fierce because it's shifting the perception of your own self for where you are in your cycle and understanding that you are on a cycle.
You're on a cycle, but there are great parts to yourself to leverage and acknowledge at different times. I mean,
right.
I think it's just about this goes into the whole EQ mentality and also evolution, where for me that's not, I mean, where I started basically before this, where I was broken down and had anxiety and depression, which was situational, to where I am today, where I only, the last 6 months have only happened because I started getting out of my way and really sitting within my power, When I started on Taboo, I knew roughly the direction, but I didn't know the edges of what I could do, nor the vehicle.
Yeah.
And now I found that. And everybody can find that for themselves in their life. And how big or small, it doesn't, but this is where your niche is your superpower. There is something so uniquely you, um, that that you can bring to the world, that you do bring to the world, and it doesn't have to materialize into revenue or money. I think it's just about what you value.
Right.
Like for me, it's really about creating community, in a way where it's very sticky and intimate and intentional, because this has resulted in faster introductions for our founders, more partnerships and sponsorships for them. I mean, it's not about numbers. It's about quality of connections for us. And
Right.
because that has been our focus, that's really resonated.
And I love that you're focused on the femtech world and how that is, because it's women's health at the end of the day, right? And how these companies are serving women and how are they launching their companies and getting where they need to go? Who's adding wind to their sails? What can you do to help each other get that lift that you need, get those doors open, and while honoring the specific industry, the specific niche in the world. So you've been an entrepreneur now since, well, I mean, you had your early days as the violin teacher, but here you are in a tech platform, data-driven platform, trying to create change and have a social impact with a platform that's, providing a quarterly subscription product and a box and products that are part of your mission, i.e., honoring that they are women and BIPOC led. How has this whole journey served you? We know that you had to go into a quiet period and get all the parts and pieces back into one place and learn how to navigate life with depression and anxiety and lessen that. But now entrepreneurship, how is it serving you both professionally and personally?
I believe it's made me the best possible version I am right now. And that's going to continue to do so. I think it tests your edges as a person. I was talking with Aljolan the other day, where I feel like as people, we come into this as sort of nebulous blobs, right? Maybe we have a general direction, but over time, as we get older and with experience, we start crystallizing and understanding where we want to expand to, and directing ourselves to really form who we are. And I'm still in that process of forming my edges. I do know some edges more than I do others. But I think um, entrepreneurship has given me a platform to leverage my ability and my personal desire and mission to advocate for others in a way that I see is very meaningful. And it gets you through the hardest times. I mean, when I had during COVID to let go and rehome other people to other companies, tech companies, I prepared them. I focused on them versus the business when
Yeah.
COVID hit. It really shows you who you are. You can't hide. You can't hide from yourself of who you are, right? Because coming out of consulting and being burnt out, and everybody has this probably on a job that happened to them where they maybe the desire just wasn't there anymore, and
Right.
and say okay and criticizing me like, well, I would have done this better, right? I'm sure there's a situation that everyone's like, well, I could have done this better. Proof is in the pudding whether you actually do it.
I know.
Really do it, however painful as it is. And COVID was painful for me. COVID was painful for us. I went from a team of 16, 25 people supporting volunteering to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to now my co-founder and myself. And
Yep.
but again, do I see having a small team as a negative? No, because it actually means we have the ability to establish culture and operations and things the right way before it goes to scale. So I think I've always been, I think, finding the silver lining in what is happening to you, but that's probably been emphasized more over time in terms of like, okay, there's a downside, but is there an upside? Is there an upside? What?
Yeah, Napoleon Hill, my favorite quote is that within each severe moment, I'll throw that in, of adversity, right, that you're going through is a golden seed of opportunity.
There is, and that's why I say hard but good.
Yeah, and
those typically are the pivotal moments that were necessary for me to get here and for me to actually form the vision I have going forward and what I want to do.
right, and your wonderful co-founder says, "Keep owning your power, Rachel."
You too,
Exo.
Aljola.
Yay!
I mean, she's amazing. What I really appreciate about this journey is we were very intentional. You know, ex-consultant, I did the core capability mapping, vision mapping, all the alignment. And, you know,
But you complement each other. You
we complement,
truly
we
do.
do complement each other. And, you know, for our time together, it's been great. And it's one of those things where you also realize all the myths, or what people tell you going into startup world. I call it Alice in Wonderland. It's the Wonderland. There's so much BS and bullshit of like
Yes.
of how this is to do the right way. But then you say Elizabeth Holmes, the FTX, all of the, you know, Newman with WeWork,
Yes.
people who like blow that out of the water and were well rewarded for it, right? And so it's one of those things where as long as you understand that's the landscape you're going into,
Yeah.
you need to do you because it's authentic to you. It's going to be the easiest thing to do in a very, very harsh, dynamic climate, which will have its rewards as and amazing moments as well as drastic trauma associated with it, right? It's
Right.
a roller coaster.
We're going to have an Andy-licious moment here, everybody. Let's do it. Coupled with a stitch set on a pillow. I'm just going to go back to back here. Here's why. You do you. This is so important. This advice, Rachel. Oh my gosh. Key to entrepreneurship, because sure, it's been done before, but not by you and not for the people you're serving. Okay. And secondly, you do you at the way it needs to be done for who you be. If you are not that person who's going to do world domination, it is okay. If you're the person who, needs to have it slow and only go so far, it is okay. $1 million, $500,000, 250,000, those profitable and sustainable, wonderful. 5 million, 50 million, 100 million, this continued emphasis, but are they a unicorn? Who gives a flying F? Okay. It's who are you serving? How are you serving? And as Rachel just said, you be you. Get the clappers out again.
Unicorn, yeah. I think I was like, I believe, who was it? They said, no, I want to be a dragon. I'm a dragon. No doubt about it.
What does that mean?
I think just the fact that there is fire and fierceness as well as like beauty, right?
Well, as long as you don't leave the land scorched.
Yeah. But I it's unicorns are like this beautiful fluffy thing that's mythical, and building a startup to be that and to be recognized that it's just not true. And this goes also back to wartime CEO. We're in a downturn market. I think it encourages creativity.
Yeah.
What I've been telling our, over 33 Femtech founders that we have in our community that's growing, that one, they should be expecting, unfortunately, they have to expect that VCs will want to see longer timelines. They want them to see them doing more with less or what they currently have.
Yeah.
And so to seek one alternative financing solutions and fundraising solutions, whether it's grants or sponsorships or other aspects, or maybe working with partners and tapping into communities, new network effects, right, to do acquisition. But the fact that this is the reality, and no VC, even women-led VCs, want to admit it. But I'm invited to some interesting events, and I asked the question, and it's interesting. The answer, well, it's like a chicken and egg question. Well, they have to demonstrate a certain amount of growth and level. It's just like, but we want to see it for a longer period if they can really do it. So ultimately, right now, VCs are saying who will actually make it on the other side of the next 2 years.
Yep.
On what they currently have or less, which Sadly, that's where we are. But as a result, because that knowledge, that is what I've been coaching people to understand. It's like, okay, so then how do we plan? How do we work for the next 18 to 24 months to be more profitable? Either you work.
And absolutely, that's key. The lean startup, the what I call the MailChimp business model, is so key. But also, this is why regulation crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding is so good because people can slap down $100 and invest in your business. It's set up, it's SEC compliant, but you're raving fans, people who love you, people who read about you, but they're not an accredited investor can come in for 100, 250, 500. They can really hit it out of the park and put down 5K, but they become an owner of your business, a stakeholder. And that is very exciting for people to know that they have added wind in that way. And maybe, should everything work out and you have an exit, boom, they'll get it back. And so it's giving the VC market a little bit of a competition because people are raising not just hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're raising millions of dollars on equity crowdfunding platforms now. And we need to democratize the whole process and, bring it to a better place of equilibrium. So it's not stuck in that category of venture capital only. What can we do to add wind to your sails? What can the Startup Life Live community, anybody listening who's listened this long, but I will also put in the comments, how can we add wind to your sails at My Comma and also at your Femtech Salon?
Well, if you know of an investor or sponsor who either promote women or in the healthcare space, please, connect with us. Just DM us on Instagram or, Rachael at mycomma.life. We're always seeking and supporting new femtech founders. Please connect with us. They have a community to welcome them and support them and share knowledge to win together. And there's a word that Hannah Hutton from Personal Faith said, it's cooperation. And it really is. The space is more competition will create more innovation, but also more money to accelerate.
You said cooperate? No,
cooperation.
Cooperation. Oh my gosh, I love that word.
And that really is the value and the ethos of what we're doing here is yes, we acknowledge that, a lot of us are in the similar spaces and maybe competition, but every single one of us is necessary to actually grow this industry out as a whole, which is why it's worth $1 trillion right, in 2027. So that really is it, is, just aligning everyone to this one idea where we're accelerating healthcare equity, period equity, by supporting, whether it's through investment, just sharing. Come to our Femtech Salon. We also do virtual events for pitch just to support pitches. I mean, for me, it's you also reach out on LinkedIn. I always love supporting and hearing and getting feedback on what we do. If there's new ideas or if we're doing something wrong or articulating things, please. I mean, I'm always learning. I'm forever the student. And
she's always thinking.
I am. But, that's a really interesting thing where that's probably one of the biggest shifts personally from corporate life to now is I knew I was a student to an extent, but I felt like there were harder edges around which areas I was a student versus now it's just you're just going to learn
every single day
of your life.
And you can go start another business tomorrow and you're going to be a student as well, because every business is completely different than the last one. Trust me on that. This is so, Rachael, I just want to say to you and Aljalyn, this is a big, hairy, audacious idea that you're doing. I love how you are bringing it together. You have the subscription box, you have the My Comma platform, and you have the Femtech Salon. So you are a leader in your community, but you're also a facilitator. You're helping people connect. You're helping get the cooperation together and make that a healthy thing. Make that yes, and understand that we can still lift each other up as a community, but also to leverage the knowledge one person has, not just as a founder, not just as a female founder, but as a femtech founder, and lift that up. while at the same time having this beautiful message out there about being able to release the shame and oppression around this topic of menstruating, period, tampons, say it a million times, folks, and helping, allyship with the men as well. It's really beautiful. And please keep going with it. And please keep taking the time and the care. You birth a baby, folks, right? That kid is not fully cooked until they're like 30. All right. It's the same thing, I believe, with a business. It doesn't need to happen overnight, even though that's really rammed down our throats a lot. You can take the runway that you need to create a meaningful, profitable, and sustainable business that is mission driven and impact driven, and is also going to take advantage of the fact that it's in a $1 trillion market. Ta-da! I'm so happy. There's a lot of parts and pieces. Anyway, it's been wonderful chatting with you. I'm going to pop you in the green room. Any last words before I wrap up the show?
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for just showing up. That's really the start. The fact that I look forward to continuing this dialogue, relationship, engagement. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm right. Like, how can we evolve this space? And I think that just positions us as as a race, as humans, within a planet, with everything that's going wrong, just in a better space.
Yeah.
And I just hope that you join us.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story and sharing your founder journey and your unique perspective for this marketplace, the femtech industry and the menstrual health for women and women, period. Anyway, thank you, Rachel. Going to pop you in the green room and wrap up the show. Oh my gosh, everyone, we learned so much today. It was a thoughtful conversation and such an important conversation to have, because you can't blast through something like this. You need context, you need reference, you need touch points along the way. And I'm glad that we took that time with Rachel today. Coming up next on the Startup Life Live show, we are chatting with Danielle D. Duplain, and we're talking about supporting worldwide innovation for living longer and aging better. And what's great about Danielle, I mean, she's the founder of Free Win Production. She's an award-winning public speaking coach. She's an executive producer of innovation programs, but she's also a beloved mentor to startups around the world and co-founder of Agency, which is a global community of innovators focused on improving the aging journey. That's right. It's called Age Tech, everybody. And we're going to learn a lot. She's coming right off of CES, where she led 20 different panels talking about age tech. So we're going to learn a lot from her. And how do you know whenever I post a new show? That's right. You're over there joining the Startup Life Live meetup group. Oh my gosh. All the links are in the show notes for everything that we talked about today, because we shared a lot of information. I just want you to promise me, founders, that you're going to remember you're braver than you believe. You're stronger than you seem. And as we say here in Boston, you're wicked smarter than you think. You've got this. I'm cheering wildly for you. And as you know, I'm in awe and wonder of everything that you're doing to bring your dream and create the successful outcomes that you so strongly desire, not just for your business, but for your customers and your team working with you. So keep going. And until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Mwah! And now let's dance.